Well, things certainly are getting more interesting for the Detroit Red Wings following a win yesterday against the Utah Hockey Club, which was, by the way, very helpful for my Vancouver Canucks. 5-1 victory in Utah. You love to see it out of the Detroit Red Wings. But following yesterday's win, the Wings head into Colorado today to play off against the Avalanche in a back-to-back situation, and it turns out they're getting an extra addition. Because yesterday, in the game against the Utah Hockey Club, Petr Mrazek ended up getting hurt really early on into the game. It was like a minute 30 in, and it's initially Dylan Guenther who comes in and hits Mrazek in the knee, and then just a second or two later, you had Barrett Hayton, who kind of kneed Mrazek in the head there, and you can see the goalie's stick ends up flying away. It's a really ugly play for Mrazek, who had honestly been pretty okay in his return to the Detroit Red Wings. Sure, it's not like he has been perfect. There have been some losses in there and some 800 save percentage games, but the shutout against Vegas was a really big highlight, and I think there's a lot of confidence in Mrazek with this Red Wings team compared to maybe some of the other goalies the Wings have had the pleasure of playing in front of over the past few years. But with Petr Mrazek out, it opens the door to another goaltending conversation. Now, I get it. You could say, hey, wait a minute. The Wings have Talbot, Lyon, and Mrazek. And with Mrazek out, they've still got Talbot and Lyon. They've got two guys in net. What's the big deal? What goalie conversation do we need to have? Well, I'll tell you this. It turns out, according to Reddit user Kvark27, seems like Sebastian Cossa is on his way to Denver. And included is a picture of Cossa carrying all his bags at the airport. The description here says, I just saw Sebastian Cossa at the airport in Grand Rapids on his way to Denver after the Mrazek injury. I gave him a fist bump and said good luck. He seems like a cool dude. And this was expanded upon even more on social media, where you had some posters going out there and saying, yeah, it looks like Cossa is going to be beating the team in Colorado. Not sure why, if both Talbot and Lyon are healthy, maybe he's just there to be the third goalie. The Grindline guys then responded saying, yeah, Cossa coming in when you have a couple of healthy goalies is a bit odd. Mrazek may be out for a while. He has had concussion issues in the past, and that hit to the head could have re-aggravated it. So obviously, as a human being, we of course are wishing the best of recoveries to Petr Mrazek and hoping that whatever concussion issues he had had in the past did not get stirred up again with that hit from Barrett Hayton. Obviously, it is the worst case scenario if that does happen. But with all the protocol and with all of the risk management being taken into account here, having Sebastian Cossa up as a third goalie doesn't seem like the worst thing in the world, especially when you think about the status of Talbot and Lyon. Obviously, these guys have been pretty good, but there are some common threads on the R Red Wings subreddit that I do think are interesting to bring up. Why call him up if you have Lyon and Talbot healthy? If we know anything about Steve Yzerman, it's that he likes having three goalies. So maybe there really is just a Steve Yzerman aspect to it, how he always seems to want three goalies on his team. I don't think Talbot is 100%, and Mrazek is out for the rest of the road trip. That is what McClellan said post-game. And if that is the case, if Cam Talbot is not 100% like some of these users seem to be going out there and saying, then it does make sense to have another guy up there in the system that can maybe fight for a start once in a while and who can challenge the crease, just make things a little bit more competitive and act as more of a safety blanket than anything. Although, of course, heading into today's game against Colorado, it is Cam Talbot who has the start. So maybe that goes against some of the discourse that our Red Wings fans are going out there and talking about. Although, you can understand it because, hey, guess what? Petr Mrazek only played like a minute yesterday against the Utah Hockey Club, and then Alex Lyon came in and had the rest of the night. So, essentially, Lyon just played a game yesterday. It's a back-to-back situation. You're not going to have him playing 2 games in a row. Just get Talbot in there and see what Cossa can do inevitably, because Kossa's not going to get flown into Colorado and then play right away. That's not going to happen. It's a little bit too tight if you wanted to see that plan go through. You also have this comment from Techno Viking GA. Talbot is 0-5 in his last 5 starts, and Lyon looked pretty good last night. My guess is Todd McClellan probably doesn't want to start Talbot unless he has to at this point. AKA today. he kind of has to start Talbot now, doesn't he? So, if you wanted to say Cam Talbot has not been all too great either, on top of him not being 100%, then that would maybe make more sense in concluding why Sebastian Cossa is getting the call-up. And by the way, I wanted to also say this here too. It hasn't been announced anywhere on the Detroit Red Wings social media or anything that Sebastian Cossa has indeed been called up. Normally for these kinds of things, you would see a team post on Twitter or something that a guy got called up, but this has not been talked about anywhere, which is very, very strange, especially when you consider the fact that this Sebastian Cossa's at the airport post was from just about an hour ago. So it does seem to be more of a recent development that Cossa got the call and is on a flight to Denver, Colorado as we speak. Thankfully, though, he doesn't have to go through customs and stuff since it is just a domestic flight. But ultimately, if Mrazek is out for a while, this could open the door to Sebastian Cossa maybe getting a start or two at the National Hockey League level over the next few games here. If Todd really isn't all too keen on starting Cam Talbot nowadays, considering his record and the past few games that he has had, then maybe it could be Lions and Cossa's net to share, who really knows? And then have Talbot in as his third guy playing off against weaker teams. Essentially, if you wanted to throw that idea out there. But ultimately, of course, I think the biggest conclusion that we can get from this conversation is that Petr Mrazek probably is going to be on the shelf for a little bit, and all we can do is hope that he's able to recover fully and properly as a goalie who has had all the injury problems he has had over the years. Not even just with Detroit, but also in Chicago. He was out a bunch this year, and I know that because I had him on my fantasy team. In Toronto and all these other teams, Mrazek has never been the healthiest of guys. So ultimately, we wish him a speedy and lengthy recovery, although if he does take a while to recover, then things get a lot more interesting with Sebastian Cossa in the fray there too. Let's see what he can do at the National Hockey League level, why don't we? Cossa this season playing for the Detroit Red Wings, not for the Grand Rapids Griffins. He's been pretty good over there, but in the one game that Cossa had with Detroit, he had an .857 save percentage and a .267 goals against. He also did win that game. So very low save percentage, but a pretty decent goals against average. That was a 6-5 shootout win against the Buffalo Sabres, where he played 45 minutes on the day, but he did let in 2 goals and 14 total shots. So save percentage pretty low, goals against pretty decent. Hopefully Cossa has a chance to ultimately fix up his numbers in this latest Detroit Red Wings stint, assuming he does officially get called up. I mean, I'm just going off of a Reddit post and some of the other discourse that we have seen on social media that this guy is heading over to the airport and going to Colorado, but hey, it's an interesting development in the Detroit Red Wings system, right? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Sebastian Cossa reportedly being seen heading over to Colorado at the airport, and what do you think this means for Petr Mrazek and the goaltending situation in Detroit? They play off against the Colorado Avalanche later today. It's Cam Talbot's net. We'll see how he's able to do and whether or not Sebastian Cossa or Lyon will be the official backup. Let me know in the comments what do you think. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.